welcome once again. It is I, the New Man, coming to you live from the worst of the internet, from the hallows around. And yes, we have news. I see Matt, I see James. Nice to have you guys here. I am going to be starting early going forward for a variety of reasons. There's a number of things that I have got to get done this afternoon, and the Saturdays are actually becoming a bit more busy for me. So it is one of the things that is going to be happening as I go forward. And as far as news, since you don't want to start off with the normal news, we'll start off with something a little bit different. All right, from the UK, at least the UK news. McDonald's finally reveals launch of the Big Arch, its biggest burger ever. After months of anticipation, was anybody out there anticipating another burger from McDonald's? Were you waiting? When will they reveal real food? McDonald's first announced its plans to introduce the Big Arch at its annual investors meeting in December of 2023 in response to overwhelming customer demand for heartier burgers that are both flavorful and affordable. This long anticipated addition was originally run as a test in select countries, but it is now available in select countries including Canada and Portugal. I don't know if it's available in the United States, though. We have heard our guests loud and clear and understand that they are looking for a bigger burger on our menu. And we are excited to bring this global menu item to the Canadians, said Alyssa Butikofer, Chief Marketing Officer at McDonald's Canada. This satisfying burger combines the familiar McDonald's flavors our fans know and love with some unique ingredients, including tangy new burger sauce created for the Big Arch specifically. Okay. No, it's simulated lima beans. I don't know. I don't know. I, I just I don't know. I just don't know if I can. What else I can do with this? Oh goodness me! All right, ready for the next story? Since I didn't start with the normal stuff, we'll just continue on. Cops wedding photog recorded topless bride. A Minnesota wedding photographer hid a camera in a bridal suite and surreptitiously recorded a woman who was in her underwear with her breast exposed, getting dressed for her nuptials, according to a criminal complaint. Police learned of the video voyeurism when the photographer's wife recently provided them with a thumb drive containing the video as well as other sexual conduct material that is not further detailed. Upon examining the video, investigators were able to identify the bride who was secretly filmed as well as the wedding avenue, the barn of Chapel Shores in Albert Lea, a city about 90 miles south of Minneapolis. The video, taken from a very low angle, shows 27-year-old victim who confirmed that she was the woman in the recording. The victim identified Mitchell Ringness, 30, as the still photographer and adding that he was not hired to do videography or boudoir photography. How to ruin a wedding. Okay? Now, for those who don't know, and I did not put the story on here, but there is a really, really sad event that happened to a NHL hockey player. An NHL hockey player and his brother were riding bicycles in New Jersey and were killed by a drunk driver. Worse yet, they were they were there in Jersey because their sister was getting married in Philadelphia. All right, the next day. It's really a sad story. All right. In this case, it was, they say, an alleged drunk driver. Okay, but where would you go to? Why would you go to Jersey? Um, now, Matt Barkley, that's a good question, but I have an answer. If your choice is Philadelphia or go across the border to Jersey, I'm going across the border to Jersey. Just pointing it out. If I had to stay somewhere. Now, I mean, this guy was a major league hockey player. It's unfortunate that happened. Obviously, this woman, I, you can't get more sad than that. It's got to be somewhere. Tough call. I'm just pointing out that I would not have wanted to be in Philadelphia. Okay, I have done a lot of work in Philadelphia. I have spent time in Philadelphia for a variety of reasons, and I have no intention of ever living in Philadelphia or anywhere near that. Just pointing that out. And when you're New Jersey is really not that bad when you get away from Atlantic City and the northern half of Jersey. If you're down in the south part of Jersey, it's really not that bad. It's actually pretty. It can be pretty rural, and there's a lot of forest land and trees around, so you can be relaxed. Unfortunately, this is what happens. Yeah, pretty much like rural New York. Yeah. Preacher's Lair raid. Army deployed in standoff with owner of Universe cult boss amid fears he fled in a tunnel to hangar from his sex lair. Fears are growing that Apollo Kuboli, the self-proclaimed owner of the universe, may have fled his underground hideout using a secret tunnel. Soldiers have been deployed to help in a standoff between cops and the wanted preacher's diehard cult followers days after violent clashes. These are soldiers of the Philippine Armed Forces have been deployed to help with the standoff. All right, and this is where it was. Quillaboy is on the FBI's most wanted list after being accused of human trafficking, child and sex abuse, with the Philippines government ordering his arrest. On Saturday, over 2,000 officers in riot gear stormed the Kingdom of Jesus Christ compound where they say Quiboli was hiding out. They were halted by a human shield made up of Quiboli's brainwashed followers, blocking off the gated area. Authorities say that the cult leader had burrowed himself almost 100 feet beneath the church. Whistleblowers have testified in the past that they were held in the sex lair after being coerced into a sexual relationship with Quiboli, all right, reports the Daily Tribune. Many brave women who have come forward to say that they were first taken underground at a young age. Quiboli denies all the allegations against him. His legal team also deny any existence of an underground bunker and say the raid by the cops is illegal. Yeah. Okay. Now, if that was the only story along these lines, it would have been fine. But it's not, unfortunately. Let me see if I can get to the next one here. Texas megachurch faces exodus of worshipers after a sex abuse scandal set off a summer of turmoil. Um, Pastor Robert Morris, seen in the 2020 photograph, resigned after a woman said he had abused her on multiple occasions in the 1980s, beginning when she was 12, according to a June 2024 statement. Summer was off to a tumultuous start when allegations of child sex abuse surfaced on a blog dedicated to a Christian survivor's stories. This time, the man involved had gone on to lead one of America's largest megachurches. Robert Morris, who founded and led Gateway Church for nearly 25 years in the affluent Dallas Fort Worth suburb of Southlake, Texas, resigned after the scandal came to light in June. His exit sent thousands of evangelicals into a season of struggle that has lasted months. Last week, a pastor who oversaw all of Gateway's campuses departed amid undisclosed moral issue, becoming the latest in a series of changes for the church, the cancellation of its annual conference. The departure of Morris's successor, the remaining its Houston campus, and exodus of worshipers. I'm not even sure how I'm supposed to read all that. All right. At each weekend service, worshipers continue to face reminders of the scandal, with interim or guest pastors kicking off their sermons saying, "I'm sorry," talking about grief or finding hope in difficult times. We noticed people who have sat and prayed around them for years are once again not showing up for service. Uh, I I don't know the truth, all right, about this. I do know that obviously these things happen, right? You can't ignore the fact that people that there are predators out there, and that many of the predators end up in, or that there are times when predators end up in the houses of worship. Okay, a lot of people constantly focus on the this happening in the Catholic Church mainly because priests are supposed to take a vow of celibacy. So even if they're engaging in any kind of illicit sexual affair, it is a bad thing. Okay, uh, even if it's not illegal. Good afternoon, Dark Star. So it's unfortunate, all right, that these things happen. Now, like I said, I don't know the truth in this specific case, but it seems to me that there's something involved in this whole thing, that it's more endemic because of the multiple resignings. When the top officials begin resigning all over the place, it's one thing to have the one guy accused of whatever nefarious thing that's happened. All right, that person resigning. If that's the case, then I'll wait for the evidence. If it's multiple people resigning, I have to question. I have to question what's going on. You just have to, because it's like, well, was this known? Is this well known? Why is this other person resigning? I hate to say this, but let's say that this one guy is accused of a disgusting act, or a degeneracy, depraved act of child sex, right? Child sex game, right? 40 years later, I might add. That's what they're saying in this case. 40 years later. Okay, and so that guy, he resigns. Regardless of whether he's guilty or not, he resigns. Right? You don't know the story. We don't know the stories. We only know the allegation. If you're one of the guys underneath him, and you're part of this group, you resigning Why are you resigning? Don't you have a an obligation to lead the church or lead your flock in this very difficult time that they're going to have over this? If you start resigning, I have to question. I'm not saying that you were involved in the thing, but I have to question your commitment, all right, to the people that you are supposedly serving. Some necks get stretched, some crows get fed. Maybe it saves the species. let's let's uh let's go to another story, shall we? Burning Man, go away. Burning Man hosts virgin sacrifice parties and revenge of horny alien scientists. While Burning Man revelers embrace the event's good old spirit of self-reliance, they are never alone. More than 1,000 do-it-yourself camps unite each year to rustle up a bonkers banquet of activities. Burning Man is back, baby, and it's wilder than ever. Thousands of thrill seekers have flocked to Nevada's Black Rock Desert to get stuck in what many are calling the wildest festival of the year. The 9-day extravaganza kicked off Sunday, August 25th, with festival goers known as burners setting up their themed camps across the sun-baked playa. With only with only portaloos, excuse me, portable potties, porta potties. That's what they should have done. I don't know why the British refuse to call them potties. All right, provided these intrepid adventurers must pack whatever they need to tough it out in extreme conditions. Yeah. All right. While they embrace the event's good old spirit of self reliance, they are never alone. More than 1,000 do it yourself camps unite each year to rustle up a bonkers banquet of activities that really make Burning Man tick. Yeah. Okay. Well, let me start this off with a story, obviously, that this guy does not want to talk about, which is, and I'm not going to show the rest of this nonsensical degeneracy that's going on with the rest of this crap, right, at Burning Man. Um, this year started off the first day of the festival with a murder. Okay? And this story doesn't even cover it, right? Where's this? Other events this year feature sex kung fu, slap your balls with bros, sex afternoon orgy, naked yoga, bondage fights, all right? Ah, it's degeneracy on parade, folks. That's okay, because in Japan, we're safe, right? Japan wants its hardworking citizens to try a 4-day work week. Oh, that'll work. Japan, a nation so hardworking its language has a term for literally working oneself to death, is trying to address a worrisome labor shortage by coaxing more of its people and companies to adopt 4-day work weeks. Why is there a labor shortage? The Japanese government first expressed support for shorter working week in 2021 after lawmakers endorsed the idea. The concept has been slow to catch on, however. About 8% of the companies in Japan allow workers to take 3 or more days off per week, while 7% give their workers the legally mandated 1 day off, according to the Ministry of Health, Labor, and Welfare. Hoping to to produce more takers, especially among small and medium-sized businesses. the government launched a work style reform campaign, all right, that promotes shorter hours and other flexible arrangements, along with overtime limits and paid annual leave. The Labor Ministry recently started offering free consulting, grants, and a growing library of success stories as further motivation. By realizing a society in which workers can choose from a variety of working styles based on their circumstances, we aim to create a virtuous cycle of growth and distribution and enable each and every worker to have a better outlook for the future, states a ministry website at the Hataraka Kikata Kaikaku campaign. I don't know why I even tried. Okay, let me explain this to people. How do you have a labor shortage? How do you gain a labor shortage where you don't have enough? And to me, when you say there's a labor shortage, it means you don't have enough workers, okay, for the number of jobs available. In this case, they're saying it's the other day. They have a job shortage. It's not a labor shortage. It has a labor surplus. Okay. So, do they really have a labor shortage, or are they trying to push immigration onto them? I don't think that they have a labor shortage. I just don't. Okay. If there's a labor shortage, especially because the population is zero, the population growth, rather, the growth rate in Japan is effectively zero right now. They're not growing. The amount of people for labor is not growing. And if there is such a thing as a labor shortage, how is demanding a 4-day work week going to alleviate that? That makes no sense. That means you have a labor surplus and you don't have enough work for everyone. So you're trying to get other people involved in working. Now, if there is a labor shortage in Japan, it is because more people in Japan are trying to work, i.e., women. There's more women applying to be in the workforce. Now, that could be happening, okay? In which case, their economy has to shift to allow for more women within the workforce. The problem with that, however, is where are the women going to work? What jobs are the women going to take? Okay? You're not going to find them in construction. You're not going to find them in anything that's labor intensive. You're not going to find them, for example, hauling trash as trash haulers or as sewage workers for the most part, just like anywhere else. Why? Because, well, women aren't built to compete in those kind of labor intensive kind of things. Can they drive trains? Can they drive cars and things like that? Sure. But I don't think that I don't understand how this 4-day work week is going to help anything. I really don't. Let's get into some other news. Back to the Philippines. Philippines say China rammed a Coast Guard ship off the South or in the South China Sea. A Philippine Coast Guard ship anchored in the Sabina Shoal in the South China Sea since April was rammed by a China Coast Guard vessel on Saturday, officials say, as tensions between the two countries over their maritime disputes have recently shifted to the area. Teresa Magubano, right, one of the two largest vessels of the Philippine Coast Guard, which Beijing wants Manila to remove from the Sabino Shoal, sustained damage after it was intentionally hit multiple times while operating in the vicinity, the Philippine Coast Guard spokesman Commodore J. Tarrelia said. Tarrella. I'm not trying to butcher your name, sir. But China said it was the Philippine ship that deliberately collided with its vessel and reiterated its demand for withdrawal. All right, Beijing, which continues to claim the entire South China Sea dispute in, despite, excuse me, this, despite an international ruling that it has no legal basis to call the shoals Xinbanjiao. All right, and you can see right here, it's pretty friggin' obvious who's hitting who. Okay, it's pretty damn obvious that the Chinese ship, all right, which you can see here, is in line with this ship, is the one doing the intentional ramming. Two other Coast Guard ships, two Chinese Navy tugboats, and several maritime militia vessels were in the vicinity at the time of the incident, according to Torrelia. All right. Earlier this week, China rammed and used a water cannon against a Philippine vessel there and also blocked a resupply mission from Manila. The Philippines said it deployed the Teresa Magmobana to the Sabino Shoal to monitor Chinese activities, including a potential for the reclamation after the discovery of an unnatural accumulation of crushed coral there. Sabino said is near the second Thomas Shoal, where tense encounters between Chinese and Philippine vessels have occurred since last year. Hey, Arkeen. um, yeah, this is where there'll be a spark with China. All right, everyone talks about Taiwan and everything else, and Taiwan will get involved. Do not misunderstand me. But this kind of an aggressive stance by the Chinese is going to lead to at least vessels being sunk. And I'm not exaggerating that. There are going to be vessels being sunk. And it's going to get ugly. And I hope Japan is ready for it. I really do. Because this is not a joke, folks. This is going to get serious. From Kyoto News, Italian naval aircraft carrier Cavalier, all right, makes its first port call in Japan. The Italian Navy flagship, the aircraft carrier Cavalier, has made its first ever port call in Japan, reflecting the European country's desire to increase its presence in the Indo-Pacific region amid China's wartime assertiveness. Cavalier arrived at a Japanese Maritime Self-Defense Force base in Yokosuka, south of Tokyo, on Thursday. It is planning joint exercises with the MSDF. All right, as you can see, it's a jump carrier, right, that is running what will appear to be Harrier jump jets. During the welcoming ceremony, Rear Admiral Toshihiko Sawada, all right, who leads the MSDF's escort Flotilla 1, said he feels honored to interact with the Italian Navy with its long history of traditions, while Rear Admiral Giancarlo Chiappina, all right, commander of the Italian Fleet Arm, said he was looking forward to conducting an anti-submarine drill. Um, the Italians are building an aircraft carrier. They have sent it to Japan. Okay. I have literally no problem with the idea that they sent it to Japan. By the way, some of the jets that are on here look like they're F-35s as well. What's on here? Ragu. I don't have a problem with the Japanese or the Italian Navy getting involved in international waters. However, I do have a problem with the EU sending one of its few carriers to operate in Japanese waters when there's a massive freaking problem with the Houthi rebels over there in the flippin' Persian Gulf and over there in the Red Sea. And you guys are constantly bitching about the United States is not around here. We got, they guys need to start providing some more and some more. Just a few French. Well, why doesn't the French freaking carrier go there? The French have carriers as well, believe it or not. Why isn't one of their carriers parked off the freaking coast of Yemen? And I'll tell you another country that it needs to be pointed out, needs to step the hell up. And that's India. Believe it or not, the Indian Navy is actually halfway decent. No, it does not sit up there and compare to the U.S. Navy. No, it does not compare, all right, to the British Navy. But it compares to China's Navy. When are they going to step up and start shouldering some of this obligation? You don't like what the United States is doing around the world? Then step the F up and start putting an end to this kind of piracy. Either that or shut the F up and do something yourselves. And if you don't want to do it yourselves, shut the F up and let us do it the way it needs to be done. Instead of whining and crying. Just putting it out there. And so what does China do from the Xinhua News? Afghanistan struggles with nation building 3 years after war ends. 3 years after the U.S.-led troops withdrew from Afghanistan, the country remains deeply scarred by 20 years of war and struggle to rebuild amid an economic collapse exacerbated by international sanctions. In Kabul, the Afghan capital, hundreds of trucks lined the road leading to the southern city of Kandahar. In a makeshift tent, Zubair, a truck driver, clutched a number card, waiting for a job assignment. It has been over 40 days since his last trip. Despite surviving the war, he and many other long-haul truckers, all right, now face a difficult struggle, economic hardship. In August 30th, 2021, the U.S. terminated its 20-year military presence in Afghanistan. The conflict devastated the nation. Please get some frickin' editors, folks. While the U.S. exit brought an end to active warfare, yeah, now just murder for hire, all right? It also led to economic sanctions that have pushed the war-torn country to the brink of collapse, making the path to reconstruction fraught with challenges. Zubair recalled that 10 years ago, he first started hauling freight across Afghanistan. He said 3 close friends with whom he often traveled with, I guess he said. 5 years ago, their trucks crossed a bridge. An American bomb struck, killing his 3 friends instantly. Zubair narrowly escaped death. Oh, and what were you hauling, Zubair? See, Mr. Terrorist here, if they were blowing up a bridge, there had to be a reason they were trying to blow up the bridge. They weren't just running around going, oh, look, a bridge, boom. Now he's bitching and whining about, there's clash of musicians and there's children being killed. Children being killed! Since the war ended, Afghanistan has experienced a significant reduction in violence and relative period of peace. Tell that to the women. According to the Global Terrorism Index, terror deaths fell by 519. What are the execution rates now? What are the public execution rates like? Naji Bala Arman, a veteran Afghan journalist and political analyst, remarked during the 20 years of U.S. occupation, media coverage was dominated by reports of bloodshed and violence. The end of the war has brought a noticeable improvement in the country's security situation, and domestic news is no longer as oppressive. Yeah, because they're not reporting it. When we're on the road now, there are no U.S. warplanes overhead. We don't have to feel the explosions and gunfire as we sit up there and terrorize our neighbors, all right, and keep them oppressed. That were a constant threat during the war, Zabir said, reflecting on the peace that has emerged in the past few years. Despite the end of the active conflict, Afghanistan's reconstruction faces immense challenges. The country urgently needs rebuilding. But U.S. sanctions and other economic pressures have made the task even more daunting. Why are we sanctioning these people? Wouldn't have anything to do with the fact that they're brutalizing their own populations, as they have led to a brain drain, a shortage of foreign currency, and severe constraints on Afghanistan's economic development. He was hauling kittens and Skittles. Really? So Afghanistan is struggling economically. You having a bunch of people sitting around on their asses, not able to find work in a country that has what? Well, there's no international aid going in there. There's no international, investment. What are you investing in? What's there to invest in? Got mountainous regions, surrounding areas. What's there? Aside from rock, a few trees, what's there? Didn't our government send the Taliban $200 million? We've sent the Taliban billions of dollars already. What do the Taliban have? You see, there's nothing there. You want to develop the country, develop it where? Develop what? What are you going to develop? What are you going to build? Well, they can build houses, Nomad. They can build houses. Okay, they build a house. Then what? Now what? Who's going to live there? What are they going to do? The people who live there. What's there? What does Afghanistan have that it can sit up there and use for investment purposes that the rest of the world would want to invest in? With enough opium, you can live anywhere. Afghanistan sits on a lot of minerals, if I remember correctly. Really? Where? I suspect that you're right. Okay, I'm not. I'm not disagreeing with you. I suspect that you are probably right. It probably does have a lot of mineral wealth. Okay, but in order to exploit that mineral wealth, you know what you need to do? You need to dig in rock. You got to be able to mine. Sweet. That's all I got. All right. But you have to mine. I think you can go around the world. And I do have questions for you, Jensen. I realize you can't pop in, but I do have questions for you. All right, that are related to a video that I saw, and I need somebody that's a royalist. All right, to give me a different a personal opinion about some things. All right, when we get the chance, I realize that you're busy right now. But aside from the opium dens, what does Afghanistan have? Well, they do have mineral resources. I suspect that you're correct, and I suspect that some of the mineral resources that they have are rare earth metals. To be quite frank, but in order to get to those metals, in order to do this, you need to mine. Mining miners specifically, the the mindset of a miner is required. We have miners in the United States. They have miners in Britain. They have miners pretty much throughout various areas of Europe. You have people willing to mine in Africa and Latin America. But the Arab world, everywhere you look where the Arabs are, in the world of Islam, show me the major mining consortiums. They sit on vast wealth, but you don't have them mining. Think about that. Now, I was speaking about Philadelphia earlier. All right. Alleged drunk driver accused of trying to mow down golfers in a chaotic scene. An alleged drunk driver is accused of ramming a blue Ford Bronco into a golf cart, ejecting its passengers as he tried to mow down another golfer before fleeing at a Delaware course. The chaotic hit and run happened at the Deerfield Golf Club in Newark, Delaware, just 45 miles southwest of Philadelphia, on Tuesday afternoon, according to the Delaware Natural Resources Police. Now, I would like to know why the Delaware Natural Resources Police are involved in a golf course. Just out of curiosity. Witnesses at the course captured the suspect erratically driving the Ford Bronco on the road before launching himself onto the grass, striking one golfer as he crashed into the golf cart and nearly hit another person. During the chaotic event, the golf cart, which was struck, started to drive away as the ejected occupant lay in the grass. The victim suffered minor injury but refused any additional medical help. Bystanders watching the mayhem unfold were heard shouting at the vehicle as it sped off on the turf, but the car didn't get far. Police claim Officers quickly stopped the suspect behind the wheel and took him into custody without incident. Okay, I don't think he was drunk, or at least not just drunk. Okay, the guy was obviously deranged. Now, maybe his drink had been spiked with a little extra spice. I don't know. Oh my god! But now listen to this: the suspected driver faces one felony charge: reckless endanger first degree creates a substantial risk or death of another, and 4 misdemeanors. You're only hitting this guy with one felony? You can't come up with like 16? Alright, I'm just trying to understand this. Oh my god. Driving a vehicle under the influence of a drug, misdemeanor. How is that a misdemeanor? Reckless endangerment first degree creates a substantial risk of death, felony. Leaving the scene of a collision, that's resulting in an injury. That's a misdemeanor? Malicious mischief of a motor vehicle. I don't know what the hell malicious is. That's a caveat for him. It's just a small oopsie. Failure to have insurance identification. Operating a vehicle on division roads slash areas not designated for such purposes. That's just a quote unquote violation. I guess that even doesn't go to the misdemeanor. Operate a motor vehicle on division lands with willful disregard for safety and person's property. That's a violation. What about the damage done to the golf course? Right? I hate to say this, but if you're spinning around on a friggin' golf course, I guarantee there's damage being done to that with a friggin' Ford Bronco. Oh, but we have more. A street performer blew bubbles in a park. Officials cited him for littering. Blowing bubbles is illegal in San Diego, or at least it was early Saturday evening at a public park in one of the city's wealthiest neighborhoods. Sandy Snakenberg, all right, has been performing as the Bubble Pirate for about a decade. Was making deck-sized bubbles for children at 5:15 p.m. when two San Diego Parks and Recreation rangers approached and threatened to write him a citation for littering if he did not stop. Snakenberg protested, saying that most of his bubbles evaporated when they popped and the droplets that fell onto the ground were harmless. One of the rangers, Roberto Bejair, disagreed. It's littering in bubble form. He blew a bubble. Grab him. He's making children happy. How dare he? Snakenberg, 63, kept performing as about a dozen children shrieked and ran around the park near La Jolla Cove, trying to pop the cascading stream of bubbles Snakenberg unleashed. Bejar made good on his promise, returning a half hour later to write Snakenberg a ticket for littering prohibited fluid. Snakenberg's citation comes in the middle of years-long long effort by the San Diego leaders to comply with a state law allowing street vendors to do business in public while not letting them overrun the city's most popular tourist destinations. The guy is just writing bubbles. You can't make this stuff up, folks. You just can't make this stupid shit up. It's unbelievable to me. 401k millionaires reaches record high, says Fidelity. A record number of 401k accounts contain $1 million or more during the second quarter of 2024, according to analysis from Fidelity Investments. There were about 497,000 so-called 401k millionaires last quarter, a 2.5% increase from the 485,000 during the first quarter, according to Fidelity's analysis of 24 million 401k accounts across 26,000 employer-sponsored plans. The number of individual retirement account participants carrying balances of $1 million or more, right, has also hit a record high last quarter, jumping 6% from the first quarter to nearly 399,000. The average retirement saver has seen their accounts swell last year. The average retirement account balance grew for the third consecutive quarter, with the average 401k and IRA balances up 1% to $127,100 to $129,200 respectively. Okay, so why is the Hill reporting this? Because a certain politician, a certain Mensa candidate for president named Heels has proposed a tax on unrealized wealth. In other words, they're getting ready to pre-tax 401ks. They are going to raid the funds of the 401ks. Now, for those who don't know, 401ks are plans that are a retirement plan working with the employer, and the employer, instead of giving the employee a pension, will sit up there and put money into a 401k fund, generally matching up to a certain percentage, like 3% or 5% of the annual salary of the individual. All right, who is also, but they're matching. If you're putting in 3% of your salary, then that money is then matched by the company. Is generally how most of these 401ks work. They all have little things applied to them. Okay. Either way, however, you as an individual have to put in money into the 401k. Now, that money that you place into the 401k is not taxed at that time. Okay? But when you pull the money out of the 401k, you are going to be taxed as if it was personal income. So basically, it's a deferment of income tax. If somebody has over $1 million in a 401k, okay, when they turn whatever age that they're going to be allowed to start withdrawing that money, they're going to immediately become taxed on each and every one of those withdrawals. So if you're making, we'll say, $50,000 a year, and you have $1 million 401k, how long can you live just on the same $50,000 that you were living on before. If you're going to continue to draw just the 50,000. Now this is assuming a zero tax or a zero rather inflation rate that's going on, right? So in a $0 inflation rate with zero inflation, which we know isn't true, if you're pulling out the same amount of money as if you were getting paid your $50,000 salary, okay, how long is that going to last? It's going to last 20 years. If you start at 60, that means if you live up to 80, all right, you were able to live the same basic lifestyle to when you're 80. But that's assuming several things that we know isn't true. Worse yet, most of these people, let's be perfectly frank, that are in the having $1 million in their 401k, they're not making $50,000 a year. What they're making is probably closer to 110, $120,000 a year, right? So it isn't going to last 20 years. It's going to last 10 at best. At the time period when a lot of your income, however, is going to be going out and being spent on what? Health. Because as you age, your health declines. That is the reality of things. It's unfortunate. But they're going to tax us. They're going to raid the 401ks. That's what they're coming for. That's what they're gunning for because right now they are quickly running out of other people's money. For those who don't know, this is the final year of the Trump's tax cuts from previously. They're going to let those tax cuts expire. Everyone's going to be jumped up in taxes from where what they were paying before, and then they're going to come back and say, "Oh, but we didn't raise your taxes." Expect it. Inflation isn't going anywhere either. Oh yeah, it is. You are completely wrong, Mr. Barkley. Inflation is going up, so it's going somewhere. It's going to increase dramatically. Because, well, the Fed, being leftists, are going to try an attempt to try and short term affect the election by infusing more money into the economy, basically turn the printers on. All right, in an attempt to sort of go, oh, look, the stock market's flying. That's what they're getting ready to do, folks. 2025 is going to be a bit rough. You can't deny that. Officials probed the death of a Wells Fargo employee found in her cubicle 4 days after last scanning into work. 60-year-old Arizona Wells Fargo employee scanned into her office on Friday on what appeared to be a normal ordinary workday. Then 4 days later, she was found dead in her cubicle. This is not as bad as it sounds, but it is bad. Okay. Denise Prudhomme, 60, was found dead on August 20th in her office in Tempe, police said. She had last scanned into the building at 7 a.m. August 16th, a Friday. Okay, so over the weekend, no one was probably in the office. There was no further scan in or out of the office, authorities said. Tempe police responded to the Wells Fargo office at the 1100 block of West Washington Street after an on-site security called about an employee they believed to be dead. She was pronounced dead at 4:55 p.m. Now, on Monday, I am curious why it took them so long on Monday to figure this out. The cause of death is uh, The cause of death, all right, is pending det- determination by the Maricopa County's medical examiner. Police said in a preliminary investigation shows no obvious signs of foul play. The investigation continues. All right. Look, they were complaining that there was a smell. All right, going on. Well, you couldn't find the smell until then. Is that what you're saying? You couldn't find the smell right away, so you just let this continue the way it was? Is that what you're trying to say? Right? So it had to be in the afternoon? You didn't smell it in the morning when you came in Monday morning? Now, for those who don't know, you don't necessarily smell the rotting body, but you probably were smelling what smelled like garbage, a sewer, right? Because the body will evacuate itself when the body dies. So I'm sure that it's unfortunate for this woman's family, right? They're saying that they don't know how it could have gone unnoticed for so long. It was over a weekend, folks. There was probably nobody even in the building, right, over the weekend. All right. She sat in an underpopulated area of the building. All right. It's sad that none of her coworkers checked up on her or anything, or went to go see her or anything during this. And maybe they said hi to her when they left. Who knows? Seems sad. Seems like a well perfectly timed retire with medical issues. Yeah, let's go on to the next story, shall we? How many people saw this? Kate Blanchett says there's a distinct lack of shame in modern society. Excuse me, I got a little phlegm in my throat here. Actor says we all have dark sides and criticizes public shaming before premiere of Alfonso Cuarón's disclaimer. So basically, Kate Blanchett, being the perfect little bitch that she is, all right, is talking out of both sides of her mouth. There's a distinct lack of shame, but we shouldn't be shaming people in public. What kind of stupid statement is this? What gets me is the Guardian thought, oh yeah, this is a good thing. Let's reply this. No security or cleanup crews? If if it depends on several things going on. All right, when it comes to security and cleanup and so forth, security doesn't necessarily make the rounds in each and every office. All right, there had been a report of a nasty smell, but once again, like I said, that was they had that had been kind of reported as possibly a sewer problem. All right. So they would check the toilets and everything. Everything seemed fine there, so they'd walk out. Okay, that's really what you would see. As far as other types of cleaning, all right, it depends on what they had contracted the cleaning people to do. All right, if they had contracted them to clean each cubicle, sure. If they contracted them just to clean a certain area, all right, because that's where the garbage gets dumped, it'd be something else. Kate Blanchett has spoken about the distinct lack of shame in modern society during the discussion about her new Apple TV series Disclaimer. Blanchett's character, Catherine Ravensworth, faces a public shaming in the 7-episode psychological thriller. Asked at the Venice Film Festival if the way society shames women has changed in recent years and how she approached this role as a woman, the Australian actress, all right, and filmmaker said, I always approach every wall as a woman because I am one. I don't really think about that. How do you know you're a woman? There's a distinct lack of shame in society at the moment. Shame is very different to guilt. Guilt is a very useless emotion. Wrong. All right. I don't know what you do with that, but shame and regret and the lessons one can learn from that are very powerful. She added, however, there's a lot of shaming in society. Apparently, not enough. Apparently, a hell not enough. Then she goes on, just look at the way you attempt to parent children. If you publicly shame them, it can lead to rage. So, in other words, this bitch doesn't know what the hell she's talking about. Private conversations are often far more powerful than public ones. I'm not saying public ones aren't important, just one to one, face to face reconciliation types of conversations are far more powerful than public shaming. This woman was trained to speak by Barack Obama, saying absolutely both sides of everything. In other words, she said nothing. And yet, this is what's passing as critical thought and enlightened discussion, according to according to the Guardian. With men at the front lines, women watch over Ukraine's sky for Russian drones. Really? Women are joining the ranks of Ukrainians' mobile air defense units to shoot down drones as more men are drawn to the battle on the eastern front line. In the Kiev's suburbs of Bucha, 70 new female recruits have joined in recent months, working in shifts and rushing to duty when an air raid sirens blare. What do you want me to say, folks? Do you want me to point out that if the men are being cannibalized from the air defense units, it means they are suffering a lack of manpower on the front lines. Just pointing this out. Israeli army says two Palestinians attempting bombings in the West Bank were killed. The Israeli army said on Saturday two Palestinians were killed overnight while preparing to carry out bombings in the occupied West Bank, where an Israeli operation entered its fourth day. The Israeli army said two officers were injured in a vehicle explosion at a petrol station in the Gush Etzon settlement block, while the head of security in the Israeli settlement of Kamara Zur engaged in a car chase with a terrorist who had infiltrated the settlement compound. They also reported that the Hamas head of Hamas in Jenin was killed in the West Bank. Because according to some idiots that I've engaged with on Twitter, have stated the fact that, oh, there's no Hamas on the West Bank. Now, I don't know how these incompetent buffoons ever get where they are. And I know a lot of people are upset. But I can tell you right now There are too many people that do not understand reality. They're all about wish fulfillment. Oh, ow, ow, innocent civilians. Stop right there. They're not innocent civilians. It's a war. They might be enemy non combatants, but they're still the enemy. They declared themselves so. The Palestinians are trying to play the game of world public opinion. And sadly, there's too many mind numbed idiots that can't use their heads for anything more than a freaking toaster or an ornament. They can't figure out, okay, if this is what they don't want, why are they still engaging in it? The Palestinian people, I'm constantly told, they had no choice with Hamas. They had no choice. Hamas would terrorize them if they didn't support Hamas. Okay. So are they more afraid of Hamas or are they more afraid of the Israelis? Why haven't they outed Hamas to the Israelis so they get rid of them? If that's what you're commenting on, if that's what you think the issue is, then explain that to me. Because that isn't the issue. That would be an issue in a Western philosophical thought. It's not the issue there because they don't have a Western philosophical outlook. That's reality. I don't care about either side. I just want to stop sending everyone and their mothers billions and billions of dollars. Not going to get me to argue. Doctor busted for bizarre urine antics. A 59-year-old internist sold his Florida medical practice in 2022 to a fellow doctor. In recent months, Balua reportedly became upset over the business with the purchaser, Dr. Dylan Dinesh, 32, who runs the affiliated health clinics out of Balua's former office in St. Petersburg. Court records do not reveal the nature of the business dispute. Investigators allege that Balua, I'm not trying to butcher your name, dude. That's how I pronounce it. Baula, all right, went to Dinesh's office on July 30th and soaked the front doors in gallons of fluid, which had the odor of urine. On August 17th, Baula, all right, allegedly returned to the property again and unleashed a cascade of rank smelling liquid. On both occasions, Baula and his vehicle were recorded by surveillance cameras. The urine smelling liquid soaked into the front of the wooden doors, causing irreparable damage. Replacing the door will cost $1,500, according to the arrest affidavit, which reports that the medical practice suffered $6,000 in other losses related to the urine attack. Pictured above, Baula, all right, was arrested yesterday and charged with felony count of criminal mischief. You get a felony count for criminal mischief throwing pee, but when you're trying to run down people on a golf course, well, granted, it's two different states and with different rules. I understand that. He was taken and released into custody last night after posting $5,000 cash bond. According to state records, Baula's medical license, which expires in January, is active and lists his primary practice address as his $1.7 million waterfront home in Gulfport. In 2003, Baula was formally reprimanded by the Board of Medicine and fined $10,000 and ordered to perform $100 100 hours of community service after he improperly prescribed medication to an online client that he never gave a physical exam, ordered tests for, or provided an adequate diagnosis, among other standards of care violations. At the time, Baula was employed by the Virtual Medical Group.com, a telemedicine outfit which appears to be defunct now. Just kind of curious what prescribed medication this guy gave out. I mean, I see a lot of commercials. Just putting it out there. Yeah, yeah. Final two stories of the day. Starts with a bad one. Ohio woman 27 killed and ate a cat. An Ohio woman stomped a cat to death before eating the animal, according to police. As alleged in the municipal court complaints, Alexis Farrell, 27, killed the cat by stomping on its head outside a public housing complex in Canton, where she resides. Police responded late Friday evening to a disturbing incident, which was witnessed by multiple individuals. Found Farrell squatting next to the dead feline. Farrell, cops reported, had blood on her hands and feet and fur on her lips. Court filings did not reveal who owned the cat. Late in Seen at the right, Farrell was arrested. Farrell is a good name for her, although I suspect it's pronounced Farrell. All right, was arrested on several felony and misdemeanor counts and booked in the county jail, where she's being held in lieu of a $100,000 bond. Farrell is scheduled for an August 26th preliminary hearing. According to the court records, she has a rap sheet includes multiple theft and convictions, as well as a 2023 felony conviction for child endangerment, for which she was sentenced to 3 years probation. Uh, she has multiple theft convictions, and in 2023 a felony conviction for child endangerment. Why were you just giving her probation? This woman was likely deranged. And this is the problem right now that we have in our country. Back in the day, the left was all about, oh, how it's horrible, all these people that you're incarcerating in these in these mental health facilities. Oh, it's horrible, all these people being abused in these mental health facilities. And I'm not saying that the abuse wasn't happening, because abuse happens wherever it is. Is it better now? Is it better that these mental patients are walking around, these mental cases are walking around the streets? This woman needed help and needs help. And the kind of help she needs, you're not going to find, okay, with with her going, okay, I'll just go down to the local shrink and just talk it out. That's not going to happen. She's a demonstrated danger to herself and to others. She needs to be incarcerated. At that point, you could then deal with her mental health issues. Final story of the day. Final story of the day.
Mother bear in Bartlett is enjoying a snack with her cubs after she jumped into a car to grab some chips, and we have the
So we have a bear crawling into a guy's car, breaking into the car, coming out with a bag of chips. And this is in New Hampshire, folks, and you can tell this is not a real rural area that the bear is in. I just want to point out to folks, look, bears are becoming increasingly active at this point. By the way, it is getting toward the end of summer. Fall has begun. For all intents and purposes, we are in the days are getting shorter now, right, in the northern hemisphere. And as the days get shorter and shorter, bears are going to become more and more active because they have to put on a lot of weight for their hibernation during the winter. So they're going. Mr. Barkley is correct. They are hungry, and they're going to go over anything. And if you leave a bag of chips in your car, if you know there's bears have been spotted in your area, and you leave a food item in your car, you're going to get a visit, right? Bears have extraordinary noses, all right? They can smell these things. They can smell food miles away. I don't know why people keep leaving chips in their cars in areas that have bears. We should make chip cars out of chips and drive them into the forest. Black bears are not as dangerous, of course, as brown bears. But black bears are still wild animals. And when you have a sow, which is a mother bear, right, with her cubs, you are running a really high risk, all right, of a negative interaction with human beings. If at some point you unknowingly get between that mother bear and her cub, you are a road patty. Okay? These are wild animals. Black bears lately have become far too familiar with human beings. And their interactions, both positive and negative, are going to increase. It's just the way it is. Now, a lot of people will say, well, that's because of our encroachment into their territory. Okay. And there's truth to that. There's a lot of truth to that. But there's also a lot of truth that they're being driven to human population centers more and more because brown bears have become more and more of a threat to them. But brown bears tend to avoid human beings at this point in time. At some point, it's going to change. But just be careful out there, folks. If you see a bear, don't go up and try and pet Yogi. Okay, I'm just putting it out there, and I'm telling you now, Dark Star or Keen's idea of just going out there leaving picnic baskets for him isn't really a good plan either. Just point it out. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Hope that you all have a good day. Thanks for coming out, everybody. I've got work to do. I'll talk to y'all later. Thanks for coming out, everybody. Bye bye.